Hi, my name is Lyric, and today we're reacting to a video by the man, the myth, the legend, Jonny Arnett, which says, who really owned each era? So I'm just going to be talking about who is the definitive owner of each era in NBA history, who is the best player. Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting topic, so yeah, let's just hurry up and dive into it. Let's go. Go watch the original video first, obviously, second link in the description.
So NBA 2K just brought 5 different eras to their game, and nearly every era was named specifically after certain players. As in the case of many things, this got social media in a frenzy, as everyone began debating who the eras actually belonged to.
Of course.
According to 2K, there is the Magic and Bird era, the Jordan era,
So we're talking about starting in the 80s, 90s. Magic Bird era, that makes sense. I mean, they're around the same level of player, and they both dominated the game. Jordan era, 100%. Kobe era is the one I would not agree with here. Because I feel like the 2000s, it was really nobody's era. No one player dominated. I guess I would call it maybe like the Duncan Kobe era. If you're going to name it as the two players, it's hard. The 2000s are a lot of parity in the NBA. It's really not one player dominating that much. If we're going to name it after the two best players, I would call it the Kobe Duncan era. Or something like that. Maybe Shaq, depending on when you start it. Yeah.
the Kobe era, the LeBron era.
LeBron era, I agree with. Even if people say, he didn't win. Curry won just as much championships in that era. Well, LeBron was very obviously the best player throughout the entire era. Okay, like, I mean, Curry has 4 championships, right? Yeah, LeBron also has 4 championships. He's had worse teams most of the time, and he has 4 Finals MVPs. The Curry's 1. Like, shut up. Okay.
And the
He's had to deal with different teams and shit. Curry had relatively the same amount of players. Like, yeah, it's dumb.
modern era. Well, considering the fact that I love basketball history and have a YouTube channel specifically dedicated to it, I figured I might as well give my perspective on them. Not only will I be saying whether or not I agree with 2K's choices, but I will also be giving titles to the earlier eras that 2K does not address. So without further ado,
the Russell Wilt era would be the 60s.
The first era that needs to be given a title was when the NBA was in its infancy, which is essentially the 1950s. For this one, there's basically no argument for anyone else. Without a shadow of a doubt, this was the George Mikan era.
Right.
During this stretch of time,
5 championships.
Mikan led his Lakers to win 4 championships in a span of 5 years, as the clear best player on his team. In that time, he also won several scoring titles and rebounding titles.
Oh, in the 50s, only 4 championships, yeah.
Who the best player was in the game during that era. Next up is the 1960s.
Russell Wilt.
You guys know how much I love and respect Wilt Chamberlain
Both of them.
on my channel. But let's be real, there's absolutely no argument for anyone other than Russell during this era, as I'm labeling the 1960s the Bill Russell era.
I'm not mad at it being just the Russell era. I mean, I think he is the better player. I was saying Wilt just because, his stats are so dominant, he was arguably the better player, but by some people say, but yeah, I'm definitely not mad at it just being the Russell era. I mean, the guy won 9 out of the 10 championships in the decade, so yeah, not mad at that at all.
In that decade, Russell led his team to win 9 out of a possible 10 championships, and the only other team who won a title was the 76ers, who were led by Chamberlain. You could argue that Russell and Chamberlain should have shared that era, just like Magic and Bird for the 80s, but the 9 championships to only 1 is just too big of a gap for me to make it make sense.
That's fair.
I don't care if Chamberlain had averaged 70 points per game over that decade. It doesn't change the fact that the Celtics were the model of excellence in the 1960s, and it was Russell who won.
The biggest thing to define who owned an era is the championships.
More chips
That's the main thing
than
people look at, obviously.
in NBA history. Next, we're looking at
Kareem.
the 1970s,
Kareem.
and this is a bit of a tricky one. From an individual perspective, there's no question that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the most talented and statistically dominant player over
It's a bit harder because he didn't win that. No team won that many championships.
Unfortunately, he only got 1 championship in that decade. And are we really about to name an entire era?
But no one else really got multiple championships other than Dr. J in the ABA.
In the 70s, the Celtics won more championships than anyone else. But that was just a grand total of 2, and the stardom of those teams was pretty evenly split between Dave Cowens and John Havlicek.
Right.
If we're being honest, this era is famous for the fact that it didn't contain a single dynasty team, as there were many different winners over the course of the decade. For this reason, I would not title this era after a single player, but instead, I would call it the parody era, because it's the ultimate example of a balanced level of competition within the league. Next is the 1980s, and this won't take me very long because of course 2K got this one right, as this was definitely the Magic and Bird era. Between these two legendary superstars, they won 8 out of a possible 10 championships.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Between the two of them, they represented every single NBA Finals series that decade.
Yeah, because the two ones in the 80s that weren't the Lakers or Celtics was the Sixers and the Pistons in 83 and 89, and both those teams beat the Lakers in the finals. So
I imagine some diehard Pistons fan might try to shoehorn Isaiah Thomas into the conversation.
Absolutely
but he
not.
Technically only won a single championship that decade, as the second one was the beginning of the 1990s. And as much as I respect Thomas's talent, he never won a single MVP award, unlike Magic and Bird, who won several. Without question,
6.
This is correctly named.
Well, 5 in the 80s.
The Magic and Bird era. Now, the 1990s.
Jordan era, 100%.
Just like the decade before, this is an easy choice. This is appropriately named the Michael Jordan era. The Bulls won 6 out of a possible 10 championships that decade, and Jordan was the Finals MVP in every one of those cases. Along with that, MJ was pretty much universally recognized as the best player during that era, and anyone who disagreed just likely wanted to be different. Some might try to say that Hakeem should share the title of this era with
absolutely
MJ,
not.
but I think that's a little generous to the dream, considering how MJ has...
The Magic Bird era is only because it has 2 players, because they were both so equal. Hakeem is nowhere near equal to Jordan.
3 times the amount of rings that Olajuwon has, and 4 times the amount of MVPs. I could unnecessarily go over his long list of accolades in that decade, but
it's Michael Jordan.
He was Michael Jordan, and that was his era.
Right.
Now for the 2000s, and this is where things get really interesting.
Here we
2K
go.
decided to give the title exclusively to Kobe Bryant, and obviously, by them doing that, the biggest omission is the San Antonio Spurs legend, Tim Duncan. Imagine getting 5 championship rings as the leader of your team and not getting an era. Now, if you force me to pick one or the other, I do think there is a slightly better argument for Kobe Bryant than for Tim Duncan.
I agree with that.
The funny thing is that Duncan has consistency working in his favor, but that advantage quickly becomes a disadvantage when you limit the comparison to one specific era. Let's look at the 2000s. During this era, Kobe's Lakers won 4 championships.
Only one Finals MVP,
while
though.
Tim Duncan's Spurs won 3. The Lakers made it to the NBA Finals a total of 6 times, while the Spurs only made it 3 times. And when they met each other in the playoffs, Kobe's team eliminated the Spurs 4 times, and Duncan's team eliminated the Lakers only once.
That's
Unless you
crazy.
value regular season wins over actual championships, then there's no question that Kobe's team won significantly more during this era. Now, inevitably, many of my friends who are Spurs fans will then try to redirect Kobe's success exclusively towards Shaq, as if Kobe didn't earn any of that success. These are the numbers Kobe
he did,
in the playoffs against
but I'm
the
just
Spurs
saying,
while
Shaq
he
was arguably the
teammates
better
with
player
Shaq.
during this time.
And these are the numbers that Shaq put up in that same stretch against San Antonio. Many people have forgotten or just never realized that Kobe was arguably the best player on the court whenever they squared off with San Antonio.
Dang, that's actually crazy. Duncan was locking Shaq up. That's crazy.
Where Shaq wasn't involved, Kobe's Lakers still defeated the Spurs while he put up these strong numbers. So if I'm being forced to pick exclusively either Duncan or Kobe, then I'm going with Kobe.
Yeah,
But
I'd pick Kobe.
My question is, why should I have to pick one or the other? Magic and Bird share the 1980s podium. Yet when you look at the two head-to-head, it's clear that Magic won way more in that era than Bird did. So based on the precedent set by 2K, it should be...
Winning is the real... who decides each era, you know? Each era is decided by who wins more.
The Kobe and Duncan era. It makes zero sense. The Magic should have to share the era with Bird when
Yeah.
Kobe doesn't have to share the era with Duncan.
I'd agree with this one. Kobe Duncan era.
Ultimately up to me, I would disagree with 2K and would have made it the Kobe and Duncan era, regardless of the fact that Kobe may have had the slightly better case individually. Next is the 2010s, which 2K labeled the
I would
LeBron
agree. Bro made it 8 straight finals.
era,
Come on now.
and this one is also spicy. Most people consider LeBron as the greatest player since the turn of the millennium. But when
Agreed.
you narrow it down to one specific decade, I can see how Steph Curry fans were triggered by the dismissal. In the decade of the 2010s, LeBron won 3 NBA championships,
Right.
and Steph Curry also won 3.
How many finals
LeBron
MVPs?
made it all the way to the NBA Finals
Right, 8 times.
and Steph made it to the Finals 5 times. When the two met up in the playoffs, LeBron's team eliminated Steph only once, while Curry's team eliminated
Who was his teammates on the
LeBron
team?
a
Who were the
total of
teammates?
3 times. Yes, I agree that LeBron was the best player over the course of that decade.
You want to know a hot take, by the way? I'm going to throw in a quick hot take right here. Just spice it in this video real quick. Steph Curry has never been the best player in the world. Neither has Kevin Durant.
But consider what Steph did in that window. He won back-to-back MVPs, becoming the first unanimous
LeBron won 3.
MVP in NBA history.
LeBron arguably should have won unanimous MVP in 2013. Lost to one fucking butter, Carmelo Anthony like a dumbass.
He led his team to the
While being
best
way better on
single-season
defense.
record of all time.
I'll give him that one. That one's great. What did he do in that playoffs though? He was his teammate. He wasn't even the best player on his team that year. Come on now, guys.
He broke numerous records.
I think he was the best player. I think he's better than
50
Kevin Durant at that time, but I'm just saying.
40-90 season of all time, all while winning an equal amount of championships to LeBron. Not only does he deserve the respect, but
not mentioning Kevin Durant when talking about how many championships Curry has in the 2010s alone is nasty as fuck. Not mentioning they had Kevin Durant for doing
he was
them.
legitimately a rival to LeBron James during that era.
He was a rival.
If you're
LeBron was a lot better though.
Magic and Bird, then how are you just gonna pick LeBron in this instance?
Because Magic and Bird are like the same tier of player. It's super. Deciding who is a better player between Magic and Bird is super hard. Deciding who is better between Kobe and Duncan is super hard. Deciding who is better between LeBron and Curry is not hard. Like, it's very obvious. Curry was never better than LeBron 1 year. I think maybe there was like 1 year. 2019, I think, by the way. 2019, I think, Curry was the only year Curry was better than LeBron at all.
2K really screwed this one up. And
I
in
disagree.
case you can't tell, I completely disagree with them.
I
as
disagree with you,
would've
Johnny.
titled it
How
as
dare
the
you.
LeBron and Steph era. The last era on the list is simply described by 2K as the modern era, and honestly, I think that's the correct call. A lot of players in the modern game are still early in their careers, and if 2K hypothetically called this, say, the Nikola Jokic era, and then Giannis went on to win 2 or 3 more championship rings, then that would age incredibly poorly. As of now,
Makes sense.
keep a player's name off of it, and let the players write the history for themselves. So what do you guys think? Did NBA 2K get the eras right, or is there...
Alright, so that was a pretty interesting video. The main one I disagree with Johnny here is the LeBron era. I think it just is the LeBron era. There's no, yeah. 2016 was like the only year where LeBron and Curry were even a debate. Well, in 2019, but every other year it was very clearly LeBron over Curry. But yeah, very interesting video. So yeah, subscribe to my original NBA channel. First link in the description. Like the video if you think you want more videos specifically like this one. Subscribe to get notifications. I upload daily NBA videos here. So very nice, as well as many other things. Uploading hella videos now. And yeah, bye.